Man, we just put 'em on the show. Try to look to the heavens to tell us things that we beg to know. Like, what did this all mean? There's no tomorrow. Oh, you know, I try to find a purpose in my life to drive me, to guide me. Oh, doctor, I feel dead inside. To drive me, to guide me. Oh, doctor, I feel dead inside. Try to look to the heavens to tell us things that we beg to know. Like, what did this all mean? There's no tomorrow. Oh, you know, I try to find a purpose in my life to drive me, to guide me. Oh, doctor, I feel dead inside.
Save me, I needed you to save me. But every single time you break me, every single time you break me. Ooh, you break me down, you wear me out. I can't breathe now, you let me down again. You let me down, really hurts bad cause I need you now. In a messed up place, my head spins round. You're the only kind of drug that can calm me down, but you left me alone. Your heart made of stone, so I gave you my own, and you left me cold. Save me, I needed you to save me.
I'm the storm that meets the moon. I'm the sun that will not move. Do you think you are? Who do you think you
Welcome everybody to another episode of RSCast. Today we are with the full crew again. I'm Tavish, your host, and I'm joined by Buddha, who was here last week. So our Kingsman is also back here on the desk. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, not bad. Glad to be back. Obviously missed last week, but yeah, here we are back. Everything's done and dusted now, but ready to get into all of it.
You better be ready. You missed us last week, so chat, any possibility to flame Kingsman, you have full authority to do so, as he did miss a
Okay.
week of RSCast. So that is his punishment. But it's good to be back. We're here. We've obviously league play is completely finished. Everyone's played their games. Obviously, for the people that just love their stats and etc., you probably all know who's made it, blah, blah, blah. But we're here to round it all up and see the goodness for play-ins and playoffs upcoming this week.
Yeah, you set it up perfectly. Let's dive straight into it. Starting with Prospect. Results for the final week are here. Kingsman, gonna give it to you first for Glacey's conference.
Well, there's a big week and teams needed big results to deliver. One team that certainly did that was Palmis. They went 7-1, sweeping Tomfoolery, who pushing towards a top 6 result, getting a 3-1 onto Hot Metal, another team that were looking to push towards top 6. But also a side that decided to push on as they got first place was Serene Taisho. They went 7-1 as well this week, keeping their momentum up, sweeping Primordial, the only side in the Glacey's Prospect Conference not to get a win throughout the entire season, now that week 9 is over. So we won't be seeing any more of them, but one team that, as I already talked about, that didn't have the best week was Tomfoolery. They were holding on to the top 6 last week, but a 1-7 week, that could have done detriments to their play-in chances.
So Serene Taisho showing dominance like always, and like I said, from the Primordial, not the best week there, not the best end of the season. But now, Buddha, going to you for the Ignis conference.
Well, to start things off, you got to start with Tartarus. They were one of those teams. They were looking good for play-ins, and they had to have a good week to maintain their position. But the question is, do they hold it with a 6-2 week? We will find out. But they got their victory, 3-1 onto Cardinals and a 3-1 onto Mosaic. A great week from Tartarus. Definitely showed up in the last fighting week. And a team that really needed results for, a chance, a possibility. They were fighting for that first place seed was Propel. But they fell short in a 3-5 week, losing to Jabatus and drawing to Obscurity. And a team that just has to be talked about. They were out of play in contention. But you look at a result and you have to talk about them. It's going to be Livens. They went 4-0 sweep onto Jabatus. I'm sure the team is very happy about that. I'm sure Tavishka's sitting there with a smile about his team. And they also got their 2-2 draw as well onto Anubis. So for Livens, it's just one of those factors that we always talk about. We see those teams playing that damage role, and Livens for sure damaged Jabatus.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. I'm definitely sitting here with a smile because Live is doing a lot of damage there. But for Jabatus, not the best week, but I still think they had a pretty solid run in the end. So with that, we had all the results for week 9. Let's move to the standings. Let's see who made it and who didn't. Kingsman, giving it to you first.
Well, one team that certainly held their consistency all season, Serene Taisho, 13-4-1. They took first place, 53 wins. Best wins in the entire of Prospects. And Palmis in second, a long run for them. And they finish on 11 wins, 46 game wins total. Then you have Terra, who clinched that third place spot from Caro, 40 wins and a 39 for Caro. And Alta, a side that were really looking to push back. They didn't have a great start to the season, but 5th and 2 wins off of 3rd. I think they could have done better. As Fearless make it on head-to-head with Tomfoolery, tied 35-35. What a week for them. How unlucky for that Tomfoolery roster. Hot Metal, though, on 28 wins. They find themselves 7 short at the end. Not enough done this season. Limousine, 1 behind on 27. And Primordial, as I said, the only side in Prospect not to find a win this season on 19 wins.
So there we have it, the top 6 from the Glacey's conference that made it through, and for Tomfoolery, unlucky that on head-to-head they didn't make it. But now let's take a look at Ignis conference to see what 6 teams made it through. Buddha, giving it to you.
Well, your first place team is going to be Newborn. 48 wins for the side. A whole series clear onto Propel, who will be in second place on 44. And talk about that damage roll from Livens. That 4-0 sweep onto Jabatus potentially screwed Jabatus over for a second place spot. So they definitely did their good job there, and I'm sure they're happy with their victory. But Jabatus in third on 43. And just a couple behind them will be Obscurity in 4th. They finished the season with 41 wins. Your 4 teams with a major goal difference. Then we convert to 5th place Tartarus. They went 6-2, finishing on 38 wins with just slightly into the negative zone for goal difference. But Anubis, your 6th place team, they're going to be on 37 wins, just 1 win behind for that 5th seeding spot. But Mosaic, they did not find their chance for play-ins. I believe they did not have a good week either, so 31 wins for them. And Livens in 8th. With their good week, I believe they might have been 9th, not too sure. But either way, they finished 8th. I'm sure they're proud with the last few weeks for results. So 29 for them, Dorset 9th for 25, and Cardinals in 10th for 24. A good last couple of weeks for these bottom teams to fight just for pride for placement.
Yeah, and there we have the 6 teams from the Ignis Conference. So all 12 teams for Prospect are there. And if you thought we have no fixtures for next week, well, you're wrong, because we're obviously going to take a look at this bracket, what for the play-ins that's going to be happening. And Kingsman, I'm going to ask you first, what matchup out of all of these here on the screen is the one that you're definitely looking forward to?
Well, I know as much as everyone will be looking at the one that hasn't got a thing, well, that'll be explained later on in the stream. I think the most exciting matchup in my eyes will be, I reckon, Propel Terra. Propel, a side that have made a few signings late in the season, and I think it's caused them a bit of a drop in form. They were very high flyers, challenging Newborn for first, and they just slipped off in the last few weeks. But Terra, they were a side that had a good bit of momentum, but found a loss in their last week. And that, I think that will be a very, very good matchup.
And what about you, Buddha? What matchup is really taking all your attention?
Obviously, my bias side is going to be my own team, but my non-bias side would be Parmis versus Jabatus. I think that is really a series to set a tone for Parmis. I know we had a few words about this team beforehand. Well, I didn't chip in, I was listening, but I think the result of this series could really outcome Parmis's whole playoffs, so it's definitely going to be big for them. But for Jabatus, I think this is a great series to kind of set the tone for themselves. Their last 5 series in league play, it's not ideal for a 3rd place seed, only winning 2 of those series. Obviously, they did draw 2, so I think their opening series for playoffs is going to be massive for them. But for both of these sides, it's really going to set a tone for their whole playoffs, I reckon.
And to continue on what Kingsman said, Alter is still waiting for their opponent, as Anubis, who was 6th, might not be able to make it. So depends on who's going to take their spot. But that's definitely one matchup that I'm looking forward to, is Alter to whoever is going to be facing that. Since it's going to be a team outside the top 6 that's getting a shot to make a miracle run here in the bracket. So that's definitely one to look forward to. And with that, Prospects over. Let's move up 1 tier to Challenger. Kingsman, straight to you for the results of the Glaciers Conference.
Well, Glaciers this week had a massive top 4 fight. They were clear of the others, but sides were deciding to go crazy the last week. Neptunium, they decided it was their week to 8-0. Mischief decided it was their week to 8-0 as well. Sides were on the tear. Sides of Phyllis Delta, who were going 0-8, could not keep up. Once again, Disorder, they go 5-3, positive in that top 4. And Apprentices, they got that 3-1 win onto Disorder, 2nd loss of the season for them, and they carried on with a 2-2 draw at Maasai. It's a very strong week, those top 4 teams. Outside the top 5, none of those teams were able to find a win. All of them getting draws, and well, it'd be interesting to see how that massive top 4 fight ended.
Yeah, so like you said, all teams in the top 5 not getting the wins definitely must have affected the standings. Curious to see how that changed. But first, Buddha, going to you for the results from the Ignis Conference.
Well, we will start off with a team that had an opportunity to push for play-ins if they had a really outstanding week and relied on other results. Impulse going 0-8, got swept by Feather and Orcus. Not a good week for them, but the 2 bright-sided teams that we've got to look at is Pardus going 6-2, got their 3-1 victories onto Canaans and Elves. A really good week for them. And then Feather as well, as mentioned earlier, the 4-0 sweep onto Impulse, but also a 2-2 onto Kapakli. I think from Kapakli's side, that is a good result. Obviously, way too late in the season for them to be getting results. But for Feather, it does raise that little bit of a question on paper, you're drawing to a bottom table team the week before playoffs. So it raises a little flag, but I'm sure it's nothing too major. But other than that, we see one more 4-0 across the board. We see Elves getting their 4-0 sweep onto Kapakli as well. And we're barely seeing minimal draws here as well. Orcas getting their 2-2 onto Crusaders, which was one of the matchups to watch going into this final week for the standings.
Feather not having the best week there, and for Impulse they had an opportunity but didn't go their way. And now let's take a look at the standings. Who made it? Kingsman, going straight to you.
Well, in what I think was the biggest top 4 fight, I think that's the most wins we've seen for a 4th place side. They don't get upper bracket. But Disorder, they got swept, but they managed to hold it by 1 game win on 51. Apprentices, they held second on 50. Mischief 8-0 wasn't enough to get second, but they get 50. And 49 in 4th place. I think I'll need to check, but I think that is the most amount of wins we've seen for a side that does not get upper bracket. 49 wins in some tiers is what you need to win the tier, let alone win the conference, let alone 4th place. Then 11 game gap to Oracles in 5th, and then a huge gap. 20 wins separate 6th and 4th. That's 2 weeks at least, 2.5 weeks at least to Gelt V in 6th. 29 wins, that is ridiculously low. But then Masai on 27, they couldn't do enough in that week. Serene Yamato 1 behind on 26. Shrine on 24. And Fearless Delta, they did manage to get a win this season, but still, they did not do as well as Buddha would have liked.
I feel as though they're not having a rough week, but I thought Gelfie would be like the gatekeeper, but they're just gatekeeping their own spot because the team above them was just such a gap they couldn't convert anything. But now, going to Ignis, standings already there. Buddha, what can you tell me?
Well, Feather cleared and dominated the conference by 11 wins onto second. 57 is what it took for Feather, with over 100 goal difference as well, just asserting dominance across this whole conference. Definitely a team to watch for the playoffs and probably the favourites. But Elves in second, they'll be clinching that second seed spot there with 46 wins. Just a couple behind them will be Eclipse in third on that 44. But a whole series behind, just clinching those high seeds of play-ins, is going to be Pardus and Kadaho on 40 wins for both sides respectively, as the head-to-head has gone in favour for Pardus. And then Orcus will be your 6th team, the final team for the play-ins from this conference. 37 wins. And that's why I said earlier, the Orcus Crusaders was a one to watch, because if Crusaders swept that series, this could be a completely different table, because something is going to have gone different. But it didn't happen. Crusaders in 7th from 30. Impulse in 8th with the 26. Kapakli in 9th with 22. And we'll see Canaans in 10th on 14. And this is how it rounded up for the Ignis Conference.
And there we have all 12 teams that made it through in Challenger. And obviously we're going to take a look at the bracket here. And not going to repeat the entire story. Kingsman, what matchup is for you really an eye-catcher?
Well, I'm not going to be biased like Buddha was, benching my own team. One that I think is definitely going to be a massive matchup is Gelt V versus Kadeho. I know it's in the lower bracket, but Gelt V, they didn't really have any pop-off potential in the last few weeks, but Kadeho, they were a top 3 side all season that lost their form really towards the end of the season, finding losses and draws where they shouldn't have been finding losses and draws. So I think one of those teams will could get a massive kickstart into their season, into their playoff or play-in run with the win against the other one.
That's definitely a good matchup to look out for. And what about you, Buddha?
It just has to be whoever plays Pardus. I think Orcus, Oracles, and Pardus, all 3 of them are very closely talented together. I think either team could beat any other in a game 5. I think they all go to. So I think the winner of Orcus and Oracles, whoever plays Pardus, I think that'll be the toughest matchup. Neptunium, I mean, you mentioned earlier, Kingpin, 49 wins, and they're in play-ins. Realistically, play-ins should be a breeze for them. I don't think they're going to struggle. Gelb V and Kadaho, I don't think that's barely going to be a matchup. I think Kadaho is just going to breeze through that. So I think the first day of play-ins is going to be really just all of it in general is going to be one to watch.
Yeah, and I agree with you both. One matchup that I'm definitely looking for is Apprentices versus Eclipse. I think that's gonna be, well, like you said, Buddha, almost every matchup here will be one to watch. Some might be a sweep, some might be really close, and I think Apprentices Eclipse is definitely one that will go the full distance. But that is enough for a challenger. Moving up to rival. Straight into the results for week 9 yet again. Kingsman, going to you first for the Glaciers Conference.
Back we are, and there was a team lurking around that top 6 spot, and they were lurking alright, needing results. And well, Anarchy decided it was their time to get results. A 3-1 onto Fearless Charlie, and a 3-1 onto Montbelliard sees them go 6-2 this week. And on the other side, finding 2 wins this week will be Serene Meiji, finding the only sweep in the conference onto Uranum, a side that were very close to first at one point, but the new roster potentially not going as Yannick would have thought. And then he also got a 3-1 onto Sanctum, ending any chance they thought they had of a top 6 late run. But around the board, a lot of wins and losses for sides, and it'll be interesting to see which sides ended up taking that top 3.
Yeah, and one result, and you said it, the only sweep there is the number 1 sweeping the number 2, so that's definitely a huge result for Serene Meiji before they go into the playoffs. But before we're going to take a look at all the other teams that made it through, first, Buddha, to you for all the results from Ignis.
We've got quite a few teams with some big results. As you can see, there's quite a handful of 4-0s on your screen. Well, there's multiple teams who just went across the whole board. The most impressive team has to be Norns. Going into this week, they needed a good week to look for play-ins, to cement play-ins, or push for seeding. We'll find that out. And what did they do? They went big. They got a 3-1 victory onto Tizok, your first place team going into this week, I believe, and barely unbeaten to some extent. But they also got another victory, a 4-0 sweep onto Continuum as well. So for Norns going 7-1. We also saw Sentinels have a good week as well. They got their 4-0 sweep onto Raiju, and then a 3-1 victory onto Erebos, another 7-1 week. Then the other team that went big as well is Nightfall. They got their 3-1 victory onto Ash and a 4-0 onto Erebos. Another team going 7-1. 3 teams going 7-1. I think Onka, they had a good week, but it just doesn't look impressive because 3 teams went 7-1. But Onka did go 6-2, which is still a big week for them, especially for the last week playing for all the seeding.
Yeah, and where you would think the final week of league play is going to be a close one, well, we have 5 sweeps here in the Ignis Conference that definitely had to affect the standings. But first, Kingsman, let's take a look at the Glacy standings.
Another Serene side cementing first place. It's going to be Serene Meiji on 48 wins. They followed their brothers in Serene Taisho, finding that first place spot. And that sweep onto Uranium proves detrimental as the gap was 4 wins between them. Journeyman, 43, they're 1 game off clinching second place. And 40 for Mystics, another big number in that 4th place spot. And then 6 game gap to Mirage in 34. They were tied with Anarchy and Yoruba. 1 game separate, not even a game separates 5th, 6th, and 7th. That is a massive tiebreaker there. Sanctum a bit further off in 28. Fearless Charlie climbing out of 10th on 28. And Montbelliard, 27. 27, that is very low for one team, considering I think it was 29 got you play-ins in Challenger in the exact same conference.
Yeah, it's definitely a big difference. And there we had the 6 teams from the Glaciers Conference making it through. But now, Buddha, to you to take a look at the Ignis standings.
Well, the first place team, they might have had a rough week with their sub, but they still cemented first. 49 wins, took their first place seeding with that bye into playoffs. Onka just 1 game behind, 48 wins for that second place spot. The Sentinels, they go 7-1 in the week, but it's just not enough. Their gap was too big for them to do anything. 43 wins for their 3rd place spot. We can see Nightfall in 4th on 39, and just almost a whole series behind Continuum in 5th with 36. Norns, as I mentioned earlier, they had a massive week, and look what it did. 7-1 for them, cemented them play-ins, 34 wins for them. And then Caligo in 7th, missing out by 3 games there on the 31. Erebos in 8th, going on 28. Ash in 9th on 27. Raiju in 10th on the 25. But again, we're seeing those bottom table teams. They still had some good competition. It's very close. They had that pride playing for that placement in the final weeks.
Yeah, and there we have it there from the Ignis Conference. All teams a little bit closer there in the top 6. But we do have our 12 teams making it through. And Kingsman, going to you first. Let's pick a matchup that you think is really important.
Well, I think an important matchup is Onka, Journeyman. Journeyman and Onka, both very strong sides. Obviously, both having their big name players. I mean, you know what? I'm going to go out there and say big players. I think this is more of a matchup between Axelos versus Sinxi. Both very well-known players in RSC and both very good players in this rival league. And I think it's a massive clash of titans in the first round of play-ins.
I can definitely see that one. And what about you, Buddha?
It's been tough to call because every time I see a good matchup, I see the recent records. It's just one team has a really good one and the other team, not so great. So it doesn't look as close as it should be. But if I got to pick one out, I got to go for the excitement for the play-in teams here. I think it just has to be Norns and Mirage. You know, Norns coming off in good form. They go 7-1. Mirage, they've been falling off recently, and obviously they've got to step it up. And I think this would be a good clash, especially with the winner playing Nightfall. Nightfall on extremely good form at the moment. So if Norns or Mirage, the team that wins it, you know, if they play up to par, play their standards, then I think they'll be the good teams to watch, make a potential play-in run.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Norns Mirage is definitely a beautiful matchup to watch. Same as with you, Kingsman, with Anka Journeyman is also a very good one. One that I'm looking forward to is actually the winner of Norns Mirage taking on Nightfall, because what I said there, Nightfall being a very strong team right now, and Norns Mirage, they also had not a bad ending to their season. Definitely Norns making a very strong ending. So curious to see which of those two will face off against Nightfall. But that's enough for Rival. We're going up again towards Elite and straight here towards you, Kingsman, for the Glaciers Conference.
Well, teams at the top, they needed results. Temple and Phyllis Bravo were inseparable last week and both found themselves getting a win and a draw. Both going 6-2, respectively. Temple, Phyllis Bravo, the matchup everyone wanted to see was a tie. And then they both went out and swept and left it very, very close at the end. But sides that performed this week, I think Deception going 6-2, big week for them. And well, another side going 6-2 was the Zulu side. They performed very well against Saturnia and Bladesmith that were high-flying and potentially pushing for that top 3. So maybe one of those teams has cemented top 3 because it's a massive fight between those two in the last running weeks.
So 2 sweeps, a couple teams going 6-2, and like you said, the top 3 might have shifted, but we have to wait a little while. First, Buddha, we're going to you for the results of the Ignis Conference.
Well, as you can see, there is literally only 4 victories. The rest of it is just draws. Draw after draw, and the majority of the draws are all from your top table teams. So pretty much every matchup is close to talk about, but you got to pick out Tigris and its Kotal. They were 2 of the teams who got that win alongside their draw. Tigris, they got their 2-2 draw onto Vanguards and followed through with their victory onto Thanatos, a 5-3 week for them. And then its Kotal, they got their 2-2 draw onto Holdra and got their 3-1 victory onto Carbo. The biggest week being 5-3. That's how competitive this final week was for this conference. And just an honorable mention as well for Velocity as well. They got a win and a draw for themselves. A 4-0 sweep onto Darkness and a 2-2 draw onto Scorch. So actually making that one the biggest week. My apologies, 6-2. And you'll see for the standings how big that was from Velocity. But it's just crazy how many draws there were, and it was all between the top 4 teams fighting against each other as well.
Yeah, so 2 sweeps, 2 3-1s, and a lot of draws definitely had to impact the standings. But first, let's take a look at the Glaciers standings. Kingsman, what can you tell?
Well, Temple and Fearless Bravo. Fearless really needed a win. They didn't find it. So on head-to-head, they get moved down to second place. And Temple are your Lacey's first place team. Zulu, they did manage to hold on third. And they take that final third place spot. Deception were third for very long this season. They just couldn't hold out. 40 wins in fourth. That seems to be the number you get fourth in. 40 wins. Bladesmiths, a roster rechange, got them fifth with 37 wins. Andrew managed to hold out a late push from Profits in 36. The gatekeep there. Profits in seventh. Serene Azuchi, they got a win, I believe. A win? No, they didn't. They didn't get. Never mind. They managed to hold on to 8th place. In the end, it was Severance that got a win, moving them off the bottom spot. And Saturnia, they end up finding themselves rock bottom.
Saturnia and Severance definitely not happy with their ending, but the top 6 is so close to each other. Curious to see how they're gonna play it out in the play-ins playoffs. But first, let's take a look at the Ignis Conference. Buddha, giving it to you.
Well, despite all the draws, there's still a bit of mix and motion of the movements. We see Tigris in first with 47. They'll claim that first place seed here in the Ignis Conference. We'll see Holdra in second on 44. Vanguard's in that third and final playoff spot on 42 wins. All three of these teams really been fighting it out, but Tigris just gained that little bit of a lead. It's Koto in fourth. They'll be your highest playing seeded team here from the Ignis Conference on 40 wins. Carbo in fifth on 37. And Velocity, as I mentioned earlier, they went 6-2, and you can see how big that was for them. It made them cement play-ins there on 36 wins. Thanatos will miss out on 34. Scorch in 8th on 33. Embry will be in 9th on 24. And Darkness will be in 10th on 23. Scorch, they were starting to make a comeback towards just after halfway through the season, but it wasn't enough for them. And this is your final standings for the Ignis Conference for the league play.
Yeah, and like you said, Velocity having a major week made sure that they were that 6th team making it through. And now, gonna take a look at the play-ins bracket here for the Elite tier. And Kingsman, again, first to you, what matchup is for you really an eye-catcher?
Well, there's only one really that catches my eye, and that's going to be Fearless Bravo Vanguard. Fearless Bravo have been a very strong team all season, but I think Vanguard have been holding back a little bit in league play. They haven't shown us really what they're made of. Evie, Sato, and Con is a sensational roster on paper, and I think for everyone that's predicting Fearless Bravo, I think there might be a bit of an upset in that match that no one expects. I think it's literally a 50-50 who performs on the day.
Okay, so Fearless Bravo Vanguard's definitely a very close matchup there, according to you. Buddha, what do you think?
Well, I've got my secret intel for that matchup, and I'm going to keep it secret for the predictions. But for me, I want to say it's the lower bracket run, but I just don't think there's some crazy matchups. I think from both sides of the play-ins, I think there is a dominant team in either day. So I think I just have to go for Holdra and Zulu. I know Zulu because obviously they're in my conference, a pretty strong, pretty consistent team. They're on a really good record as of recent. So it's a potential team that could make a run, but it's definitely a team that would need to be performing up to peak standard if they want to make that upper bracket run. But I feel like they could definitely be the team to do it. But they do play Holdra, which is a very respectable roster. And that's why I think this will be an S-tier bang out of a matchup. I think we could potentially see a Game 5 go either way, because especially with the Holdra roster, we saw last season, I believe it's the same with Josh and Bondab we saw last season. They work very well together, so I'm interested to see how that matches up against Zulu.
So you two are just basically boasting each other's team at this point.
Of course, that's the handshake agreement,
Of course.
I feel left out with my first team here, but one matchup that I'm definitely looking forward to is it's Kotal. I think it's the wrong franchise logo there since it's not from Shadow, but it's Kotal against the winner from Velocity Bladesmith. I think Velocity Bladesmith is gonna be a very close matchup, and then to face off against it's Kotal roster that is they didn't have a bad ending here in the final weeks. They definitely have a solid roster that can compete. Curious to see who will come with the most momentum from that series. Either the team Velocity Bladesmith that is coming from the win, or it's Kotal that is just fresh in that matchup and then just take it by storm maybe, or the momentum from the previous matchup will carry too much. But that is it for Elites. We're moving up one more tier, almost at the top here, but first it is Master. And Kingsman, again, first to you for the results for Week 9.
Well, we're going to move up one more time, and well, there was one team that needed results this week and didn't get them. I'm going to start on the negative for once. Dominion, very strong start. They get beaten by Dogon in the matchup to determine first, and they get beaten. They get a tie with Serene Nara, who were just looking to take games off people in the end. But once again, only one team, getting 2 wins in a row, being Dogon getting a 3-1 into Dominion, and also a 4-0 onto Heck, a result they really needed that potentially could cement them first. But I'd say the only other matchup that surprised me was Messias getting that 3-1 onto Iovia, mid-table side taking the results off the top teams. This is really when you need that momentum.
Messiah definitely, like I said, taking a win over Iovia. Iovia not having the best week there. Still 4-4, so it's a solid. And then one thing I noticed, Heck just not having their week or their season actually in general. But we'll get the standings in a little bit. First to you, Buddha, for what happened in the Ignis conference.
Well, I mentioned last week that Droga had a big week, especially from an upset result, and a big week. You could say that's what they did. They got their 2-2 draw onto Abyss, which is a respectable result, looking at the standings. But they got their victory as well onto Transcend. Definitely a big result for them. So a 5-3 week for them is going to be good for them. But Nox going 2 draws in this week onto Montezuma and the side of Gladiators. At least they didn't lose to Gladiators, so I'm sure they're just happy enough with that. But 4-4 week for Nox there. Then I believe for Leo, they had a great week, but they couldn't make play-ins anyway. But at least they finished the season going 7-1. A 4-0 sweep onto Fenrir and a 3-1 victory onto Montezuma. Definitely played somewhat of a damage role just for standings, because they played 2 teams that couldn't make play-ins anyway. So I'm not spoiling anything there. But it's just great to see that Leo finished the season on a good week. And just an honourable mention as well to Infinity. They were in a pretty... they secured play-ins already, but for seeding, which you'll see, they went big. 4-0 sweep and a 2-2 onto Transcend as well.
Yeah, so a lot of matchups that could have changed the standings here, or just for fun results. But before we go to Ignis, first, Kingsman, to you for the Glacies standings.
Well, Dogon, they were top for the first few weeks. They fell off to Dominion, but they came and clawed it back. They first place on 47 wins. Dominion, they fell to second place, 44. Iovia, they could, with that win over Messias, would have had second place, but they fall third with 43. Phoenix, they were high and flying after the roster rebuild. Very good for them, and only 2 wins. Another week, I think we'd have seen them in the top 3. Illusion, good comeback for them as well. 40 wins in 5th this time. And Messias and Haven missing out on the head-to-head again. Shame to see it, but it happens. It's the RSC. It's 9 weeks for a reason. Serene Nara showing a bit better form towards the end of the season, but not to be. And then on 30 wins, 28 wins, Fearless Alpha, but Heck, just miles away on 15.
Yeah, so again, another conference where the top 6 is, the top 5 is really close to each other, and then a little gap with the final team making it into those play-ins. But that was Glacies. Now going to you, Buddha, for Ignis.
Well, first and second, it's been switching back and forth all season long, but Nox are the team to take it onto that head-to-head. 49 wins for both sides respectively. If they match up in playoffs, you already know it's going to be a Game 5. If it's not Game 5, I'll be angry. Well, unless it's a Game 7, because, grand final. But third place, Abyss, 42 wins for that final playoff spot. They secure that one with Transcend. With their neutral week of draws, they will finish in that 4th place spot. They had that potential to go for that playoff spot, but they just could not quite get the job done. 39 wins for them. Infinity, with their 6-2 week, they secure that 5th place seed instead of 6th. On that 38 win mark. And then Hades in 6th with 36 wins. And Leo, with their big week, they just played for a much higher placement. They went from 9th to 7th, so it's just congrats on that. 31 wins for them, 30 for Montezuma in 8th, and for Fenrir on 27 and 9th. And then Gladiators with 1 series win all season, but it was a good win, but 19 wins. Unfortunately, that's not enough for play-ins, or, well, even close. Almost double their games is play-ins, so but at least they play for a bit of pride.
So here you have Nox and Drawer being the top 2, and then the 4 teams below that are pretty close to each other. And here we have the play-in bracket for Master. And a lot of close matchups here, I think, already, but still gonna question you, Kingsman. What matchup do you think is one to look out for?
No doubt in my mind, I think strongest matchup will be Hades Illusion. Hades, they have a very, very strong roster when they play their main roster. Obviously, Sparsax and Minty, they've teamed in Elite a few seasons ago. They've played very well together, and Sonny is a very good player as well. And Illusion, they've been picking up form as of recent, and they're very good in general. But I wonder if Hades, now that it's best of 5, and they've been drawing a lot of their games, they can finally pull out a game 5 win. I think it'll be very interesting, and the game with Transcend will just be the icing on the cake.
Yeah, Hades Illusion definitely, like I said, if they're playing main roster, it could definitely, or the solid roster, it could definitely be an interesting matchup. But now, Buddha, do you agree with Kingsman, or do you have another matchup in mind?
Oh, I can agree with that for sure, but I've got to pick a different series just for the stream purpose. This is going to Game 5. Messias and Infinity. Infinity, they've been a little dark horse all season. They finished the season 6, 6, and 6. So they're a devil team. They could come out of nowhere. But both of these sides have drawn a lot. Infinity 6 times, Messias 8 times. Messias, obviously, last season, they had that Swedish roster, and I believe they've changed 1 player for Sev. So it'd be interesting to see how that connection still plays out. But if Sev can, if he fits with the team perfectly, they could be an underdog for the play-ins run. But Infinity, as I said, they've just been a good little dark horse all season long. And I think this will be a great matchup. And whoever wins that series, I think it's going to be a really good series against Phoenix, because Phoenix, recent form has been very, very good. They've not lost a series in their last 5.
So both of you staying in the lower bracket, and I'm just gonna pick here one of the upper bracket. Actually, Kingsman, you can enjoy this. I'm gonna pick Draugr and Iovi, because Draugr obviously being the second, being a solid team, but Iovi not the best ending. But I do think that they can bounce back, and that's definitely gonna be a matchup that might go the full distance. But it is also time will tell, and that's Master. We still have to wait quite a while before going to Master, but there's one tier above that, the best of the best here in RSC, and it's Premier. And Kingsman, going to you for Glacies.
Well, I get the honour of pronouncing Symbiotes Hosky. What a match! That was on stream, a 2-2 draw, I think fair for both sides. Obviously, Hosky were looking for that first place spot, not to be for them, sadly. But Team Serene Fearless Esports still yet to play. I think they get an extension.
2-2.
Oh, 2-2. There you go. But it's giving us the inside information. 2-2 between Serene and Fearless. Division, my Prem team finally deciding to play their games, which is a good sign, and they get a 3-1 win onto Solace. And Feladay Visionary get a 2-2.
Yeah, so 3 draws there and 1 win in the Glacies conference. Now going to you, Buddha, for Ignis.
Wow, Ox Gaming with the victory, 3-1 onto Momentum. Definitely going to be happy about that one. I believe that is one of many victories that they've had. But RQS Esports with a 4-0 sweep onto Domination. We know they've been a top table team all season long, so they're just asserting their dominance up to the final weeks. Centurions with a 3-1 onto Kronos, and then Forge with a 3-1 onto Shaman Esports as well. We see no draws here for the Ignis side.
Yeah, so, well, like I said, all wins, RQS getting that beautiful sweep. And that is it for the results. Now let's take a look at the standings. First, Glacies Conference. Kingsman, take it away.
Well, Symbiotes, they clinch that first place spot with 28 wins. Team Hosky, also 20. They're uncatchable. Those are your top 2 for the Premier tier. Feladay and 3rd, and Division on 4th. Obviously, Division still have a game to play against Fearless Esports. That is next week, I can confirm. They got a bit of an extension, and that's a fight to see if Division get 3rd or 4th. Solace, they get pushed out by 1 win. Getting beaten by Division was the end of Solace this season. Visionary getting that 6th place spot there out as well. And Fearless and Serene, 8 and 7. I'm pretty sure it's impossible with that 2-2. 10, unless...
Fearless can make it.
Never mind,
They just
Fearless
gotta
can
beat
make
you.
it. That's true. Team Serene, they would go to 9 on the draw. They finish in last. Fearless Esports, they go to 10. A win would be required. I think a 3-1 leaves them... a 3-1... A win for Fearless puts them into the playoffs. There you go. That's what Buddha's Prem team need to do. A win against Division.
So, we have Symbiotes and Team Husky who are already through at this point. And then Division and Fearless that can still, make an opportunity for Fearless to make it through. If they get a win, maybe a sweep. I think a sweep would be better for them, but still an opportunity for Fearless. Now, Buddha, talk about Fearless. Going to you, as you are the GM, what can you tell me about the Ignis standings?
Well, as you can see, all games have been played, so we don't have to wait on any results. We have the 4 teams that are in the playoffs. First place, though, RQS Esports. They finish on 20 wins. 5 series wins, 1 draw and 1 loss. Looking pretty comfortable, looking confident. The second place Centurions, they're going to be tied there on 18 wins with Forge. Both sides have only lost 1 series as well, so the top 3 is looking very, very tasty. In 4th place, so Shaman Esports, your final team for that playoff spot. They finish on 14, winning the head-to-head onto Ox Gaming. So congrats to them. 14 wins is what it was for the Ignis Conference. And then going down, Domination in 6th with 11, just slightly behind. Then Momentum in 7th with 9, and Kronos could not find a win all season, but they'll still finish on 8. They took games here, and they're averaging just around a game a series. So I'm pretty sure they did get swept a couple times, but on average, it wasn't too bad for them. They still fought some competition.
Yeah, so we've Premier, and we had everyone just being done at the end of the season. That's always nice to see. And now Premier doesn't have play-ins; they only have playoffs. So we do have a couple matchups here already. And Kingsman, to you first. What matchup is one that you're definitely thinking that's a banger here in the Premier?
Well, I didn't know Tavish had a Prem team, so honestly, Tavish is now on QS Esports. He doesn't own DSQ anymore. He owns RQS Esports. But RQS Esports Team Hosky, I think, is the match. Is the match for me. Obviously, Team Hosky, the only reason I think they're not there is the forfeit to Feladay, which, let's be real, I think if that had been played, Hosky would have won it. But RQS Esports has been very strong all season long, obviously getting 20, and their only loss was a forfeit. So that is definitely the matchup I'm looking out for.
Yeah, like I said, Team Hosky, if they didn't have that forfeit, it could have been different. But Buddha, what about you? What matchup are you looking forward to?
I mean, I don't like picking up bracket ones because they're always going to be great to watch. They're a reason they're there. They're all top dogs. So I am going to go for a lower bracket series. I'm going to go for Feladay versus Shaman. I think they're both potential really good teams. I mean, every Premier team's obviously got potential to make a run. They're very experienced in brackets and tournaments. I'm sure any of these teams can make a lower bracket run. But Feladay and Shaman, I think, is one of these series to watch. If you look at their records for Shaman, they've not drawn. They've either won or lost. So this could be a potential team that could cruise through a playoff format or maybe struggle and go to game 5s. So that's why I think it'll be a great to watch because Feladay, they are one of those teams that seem to draw a lot. So I think this has a massive game 5 potential or a clear Shaman win.
Yeah, and Feladay, like I said, they did get a lot of draws, so might already go to the full disc, so maybe Shaman will be too strong. And you mentioned that the top bracket is always top dogs, but I did experience it a couple of the past seasons that some teams just think, why not? We're going to sweep in the upper bracket. So I'm also going to the lower bracket, and I think it's going to be Forge 2. Now it says Division, but if Fearless actually do what they should do, then it might be Fearless there. All depends on how their matchup plays out. But I'm thinking that's going to be a solid matchup to watch. Forge, not sure who they're going to play yet, most likely Division. But that's also going to be a banger to see who's going to make it through and who will be eliminated in that first round. But that is it. We had all the results, all the standings, all the teams who made it through to play in playoffs for all the tiers. Now it is time for, obviously, clip and fill of the week. Since during all these weeks, or well, not all these weeks, during this final week, all these matchups in the tiers, everyone had a little bit time to show their mechanics. Maybe there's some beautiful team plays. So let's run the tape for clip of the week and see what kind of masterminds you all are.
Josh, you're an idiot. Why aren't you playing your loser class?
俾我咪死人喂！
Okay, so I think Buddha feels robbed here that he didn't see how NZ scored there in the end, but we did see a beautiful whiff from NZ before he got an opportunity. So, Buddha, this time I'm going to you first, to feel, just, you know, how you're feeling being robbed with that, but nah, all seriousness, what did you think of the clips?
Oh, beautiful, amazing, but I'm now at a coin flip to who to pick between Ember and NC. You know, Ember, when he first joined RSC, he was teaching me how to do resets, you know, I still remember our day one together, but NC, he's my boy, you know? They're both really good goals. You know what, come back to me, I'm going to coin flip which one to pick.
Alright, so, Kingsman, to you, I heard you laughing already a little bit when Buddha was talking. So, who do you think is going to win this one?
Yeah, you wouldn't think Ember with his clips was teaching Buddha how to reset, honestly. But, yeah, no, Ember's shot was very clean, reset to top corner, got to rep my boy Josh, good reset, good catch as well, and a lovely flick over, but, ultimately, you know what, I'm going to stick with my boy Josh. I think he added more flair with his clip with a lovely bit of control and the no boost flick as well. I think it was just an all-round lovely clean shot.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful shot from Josh, and I'm a little bit tied here as well between Ember and NZ, but I'm going Ember here, because the shot he made was insane. And I see Buddha flipping a coin here in the back, so I think he's ready. Buddha, who do you have?
I landed on NC, so I am NC's vote, but I think Ember is winning it. But NC, I got you.
Yeah, so I think you're right. Ember winning clip of the week here in week 9. So let's run the tape again. Let's take another look at all these beautiful clips and see the mechanics that Ember showed in that series.
Josh, you're an idiot. Why aren't you playing your loser class?
俾我咪死人喂！
And there we had it. Beautiful clips yet again. We're still kind of, hard feelings here with the NZ clip since we don't know if it went in or not, goal line safe. But still, congrats to Ember for getting clip of the week. And obviously, with the clip of the week, we also have a fail of the week since, all of you can still whiff here and there. And the higher the tier, the better it gets. So we do have a tape for that. Let's run it and let's see who's going to take fail of the week.
And there we go.
Where's that folder again?
And there we go.
Where's that folder again?
Okay, so my mind is purely on what are those camera settings. Beautiful redirect though on the Onet. Kingsman, going to you first.
Man's got the UAV on his car. He's got the UAV flying over with those camera settings. You can see everything he needs to on the field. But I mean, yeah, he hasn't seen the balls behind him in that clip, and it's a lovely redirect for Prospect. But sadly, it goes into his own net, which I'm sure he definitely didn't want to do.
Alright, Buddha, what do you think?
I mean, I think the chat's agreeing what I'm about to say. The fail is the camera settings. It is the camera settings. I don't care about the own goal now. I mean, it's a good goal if it's the opposition, but still, what are those settings? That's worse than double Harry, and he has some unique camera settings.
Bro's called him out straight. Bro does not care. He's just straight named
Double Harry's
him.
the GOAT, though. He's the GOAT.
Alright, so let's just, leave it at that. Stork, I think it was Stork if I'm correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but congratulations on the beautiful redirect. My condolences on your camera settings. You have the fail of the week. Now, let's move on. We have weekly awards to go to. And weekly awards, we start at Prospect. Kingsman, giving it to you.
MVP again, Hunter RV finds himself here often. 611 points for him. He's also the finisher, 2.63. His Tarsus roster finished in 6th place. Don Koala will be your striker, 70% shooting. Abs, they were bottom. Severance, they didn't find a win, but Abs was clearly setting his team up the most with 2 assists per game. And Manraj from the Dwarfs roster, finds 2.63 saves and is your saviour for the Prospect here.
I didn't even know his own player. Anyway, going up to the Challenger tier. The final week of league play. Who stepped up? Let's find out. MVP is Hexos. 523.25 points per game, but Blizzy 26 is your finisher with a two-way tie though, 1.75 goals per game. Your striker is Blizzy as well. There's a reason he's scoring because he can actually score the goal on target with 70% shooting accuracy. But Sensor is your playmaker with 1.38 assists per game, helping Blizzy get those goals that were needed. And your saviour, the previous champion, is your one and only S&M Peep, 2.6 saves per game. The Challenger tier stepping up for the final week of league play.
And well, we keep going up the tiers into, hopefully, Rival, whilst we celebrate the Challengers. Rival, here we are. Your MVP is going to be Sinksy, 631 points per game. Thank God he's performing. I have him in my fantasy league team. There he goes again, 1.63 goals per game. Handsome with that 100% striking shooting accuracy. He does not miss. Cameron K, though, will be your playmaker of 1.6 assists per game. And Vipes from the Erebos roster, having to hold out everyone with 3.25 saves. And he'll be your saviour for the Rival tier.
As we slowly get to Elite, time has come at Prospect Speed. Onto the Elite Players of the Week. Your MVP for the final week is going to be Nick, 484 points per game. Your finisher is going to be Hunter Sam, 1.6 goals per game. Just want to say, he had 100% shooting accuracy in the one game he played against Fearless. Bravo. But he also got that striker award as well. 66.67 to finish it off. But your playmaker is going to be Bonesy, the one and only. 1.29 assists per game. And Connor is going to be your saviour with 3.75 saves per game. And Hunter Sam has said himself, he has scammed Elite. Elite players, how do you feel? You've let Hunter Sam take these awards away from you.
I mean, yeah, fair enough, Hunter Sam. I'm impressed. First week, first sub up, and he gets it. Milne, though, from the Phoenix roster, might be the reason for their success. 500 points per game, 562. Finisher, though, Tommy D on the Illusion roster, 1.75 goals per game. Michael, though, will be your shooter. Your striker with 61.9% shooting accuracy. Monkey Mode from my roster, for Droga roster, gets the most assists per game, normally scoring, shot. And then Slothy will be your saviour with 2.63 saves per game.
Very, very interesting. Going up to Premier, your final tier. The only tier that's not drafted. The most competitive of highest Rocket League. One series a week for them, but your MVP, DS Beastie, was 628 points per game. Your finisher is Ols, 1.75 goals per game. At least he could do something on Rocket League. In Among Us, he can't do anything. But your striker, Guma, with 75% shooting accuracy. Your playmaker, Sir Loki, with 1.5 assists per game. Your saviour, Beastie, with 5 saves per game. If my maths is correct, that means he got 20 saves in the series.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 saves, insane. 20 saves is insane. And team of the week, I'll take it this one. We have Hyvis for the Palmas roster, taking it in Prospect. Pogo for the Mischief roster for Challenger. Gecko from the Norns roster. I think Kingsman is really happy with that one. And then Eagle Crane will be in Elite from the Deception roster. Mike, he was also in the award, is your Master from the Leo roster. And then Rico from RQS Esports for Premier. And that will be your team of the week. And now as we slowly wait, we'll get to your Fantasy League. And Kingsman, I will give this one to you.
Well, your fantasy top 3, we all know him, Malaysia Sigsy. He'll be your top 3 for fantasy this week. 1,400 points. But Mox takes it overall. 8,831 points. Then for Premier, you got 2 is big with 172 points. Andre for Master with 272. Angelo for Elite with 282. Mr. Efficiency and Rival 295. Challenger will be Yannick with 304. And Prospect will be Hilo with 332. Then your predictions week top 3, you have Axlos in first. Change in second and Neuronix in third. And overall, Mr. Efficiency in first. Axlos second. And Mox again finds himself overall in third.
And there you have it. All the standings for all the weekly awards and also for all the mini games for our Fantasy League. And now, obviously, we're going to the most important part. We know that all the teams that made it, that are making it to play-ins, playoff, but we're also going to do a little bit of predictions. So we're going straight in it. We're going to talk about Prospect and Challenger first. Kingsman, going to give to you, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I believe I won this last season when we did this on RSCast. So no pressure on my predictions, but obviously Anubis side that is undecided. I have Alta beating whichever side goes there 3-1. I think Alta, obviously, they did make that top 5 and they'll be stronger than any team that comes into it, maybe having a poor run in 7th or 8th. And then I see them continuing their momentum to beat Obscurity 3-2. I think that'll be a very, very close game. I think Alta will just edge out. Then I have Tartarus beating Fearless Echo 3-1. I think it'll be a very close game. But I just see Tartarus just holding it out. They've had good form in the last few weeks. Now I wouldn't put anything past them. But I wouldn't put anything past Fearless either. Take that to a game 5 and be a coin flip. But then I see whichever team goes through there to get beaten by Caro. Caro are a very strong side and they've proved that all season long, getting 39 and 4th and staying consistent wins all through the season, so I think that'll be a very tough side to beat. But in the top side, I have Terra beating Propel 3-1. I don't think the roster change for Propel went as well as they'd want, and Terra have been getting wins all through the season so far. I think it would be nothing but there for them. A Jabatus Palmists, I put it as a Jabatus sweep. I think Jabatus will have that playoffs ice in Jay Kuziak, someone who's done this before, who's gone in playoffs very far before, and they have very good players in Silver's Raylight, and I think they'll shock this side of Palmists who have been free cruising into that second place spot over in the Glaciers Conference. Oh, and you know what? I get to go again. Even better.
Yes,
here we go. We'll continue with the lower bracket. I think we'll be able to see a very close game between Alter and Propel, but I think Propel will take it in 5, ending Alter's run. I think Palmists, they're strong enough to fight their way through a Caro side. Then moving up to the top, I think Serene Taisho Terra, I think will be a very close game. I don't think Serene Taisho will expect Terra to be as strong as I think they are, and I think take that to game 5. I think Jabatus will shock everyone and get a 3-2 on to Newborn, sending them to the lower bracket, which I think would shock everyone, considering how strong they've been. But then I see Newborn continue that run of form, sweeping Propel and moving themselves forward. And I see Terra beating Palmists. Once again, I think Palmists' head will be in the game, but as soon as they lose one game to Terra, I think it'll be over for them. Then upper finals, I have Serene Taisho beating Jabatus. Serene Taisho, I think, on the momentum with Hunter RV being in the form he's in. I don't see anything but a sweep. I think Jabatus, they get to game 5 in those games, but I think this is one where Serene Taisho just go through them like a knife through butter. And then going down, I think Newborn get beaten by Terra. I'm predicting Terra to go on a bit of a run in the lower bracket here, beating sides, getting a few upsets. I think they'll be the team this season that goes on a mystery run. And I think they'll also beat Jabatus 3-2. I think Jabatus a bit blown off momentum. We saw it last season. They're a bit blown off momentum in the lower final, and they ended up foiling out. But overall, I think Serene Taisho will be too strong for whichever side shows up in the final. I think they'll get a 4-1. No bracket reset needed. Serene Taisho would be your prospect champion.
Okay. Well, only time will tell if you are correct, but do you think Serene Taisho is going to win? And I think a lot of people actually agree with you there. As we're now going to my predictions, what's going to happen, obviously starting with play-ins. I'm starting at the lower bracket as well. I think maybe it's a new with maybe some other team. I think it's going to be a close series. Alter will take that one. And then Alter will face Obscurity afterwards. But I think Obscurity is going to be just too strong for them, and will make it through. Fearless Echo, I do see them winning over Tartarus, but then they will face off against Caro. Caro, just in my opinion, the more solid roster, but Fearless Echo, I think they will put up a fight. I think every game will be close there. And then if we go to the upper bracket, Propel Terra. Terra, I can see your Kingsman being Terra as a solid roster that can make some upsets, but I think Propel will be a little bit too strong for them here in the upper bracket. And then Palmis, Jabatus. Yeah, I know Jabatus has Jay Kuziak, a solid play, but I think Palmis itself will be a little bit too strong. And that will be the end for play-ins. And then Propel Palmis obviously making it through in the upper bracket. Obscurity Caro making it through via the lower bracket. Terra Jabatus also going into that lower bracket. And then what I think is going to happen in playoffs. I do agree with you on one thing, and that is Serene Taisho. I think Serene Taisho, no matter who they're going to face, they will be facing Propel first. It's going to be a 3-1 victory. All close games, I think, but in the end, it's not going the full distance. Newborn, Palmis whatsoever will go the full distance. And I think Palmis will take that in game 5. Where it can be a little bit close, could be a bit of contest, but I do think Palmis will close it out in the end. Terra, who dropped down facing off against Obscurity, will win that one. I think Terra is in general just the better team than Obscurity. Jabatus, Caro, yeah, they made it through, but I think Jabatus is just a more solid roster, going in a sweep there. Newborn facing off against Terra. Newborn obviously coming from that game 5 out of the upper bracket will take Terra down. And Propel, they kind of want to bounce back after Serene Taisho. which they'll do against Jabatus, but in Game 5. And then afterwards, Newborn, Propel, I think also Game 5, but Propel will be the stronger out of the two. And then upper bracket, Serene Taisha will just kind of go through it like always. Taking on Palmas, going 3-1. Palmas drop down to Propel. Propel winning that one and facing off against Serene Taisha. So they get a rematch from the upper bracket already, but Serene Taisha will take that one in 6 games. That's at least what I predict. Could be wrong here, but I agree with Gamesman on one thing. Serene Taisha will win this one. And now going to you, Buddha, for your prediction.
Damn, newborn haters. That is crazy.
Whoa.
On to the correct predictions. Buddha, the one and only. Starting it off.
No.
Fearless Echo Tartarus, it's a breeze. If we're playing up to standard, that's not even going to be a challenge. If we play average, we'll probably give them 1 game. Ultra and Anubis, obviously Anubis forfeiting their spot. Ultra, I think whoever they play, they ideally should be winning that. Result-wise, I don't know what to predict until we know what team it is. But if they go through, which they should, I think they should do. Playing Obscurity is going to be a close one. It really could go either way. But Ultra on momentum, I believe they will be a pretty good team. So I think they'll take that in a Game 5. My Prospect boys, they know my real prediction for the Fearless Echo, but for the sake of prediction points, I've gone for a Caro 3-1, so I've put them through. And up in the upper bracket, for the first round of playoffs, I've gone with Propel with a Game 5 onto Terra. Again, I think Terra, they always have that possibility. The reason why I've gone to a Game 5, but I just feel like Propel just have a bit more consistency, so I think they will be the ones edged out. Obviously, their recent record isn't the best compared to Terra's, but it's playoff day. Teams are going to turn up, and I believe Propel will be the one to do so. This final matchup, Palmas and Jabatus, I was back and forth on this one for very, very long. Palmas is one of those teams, if they turn up on the day and get it going, they will be a force to be reckoned with. But Jabatus, again, there's experience on the roster. It is a good, consistent roster as well. Is why it's gone to Game 5, but I've just tipped this one over for Palmas. Propel and Palmas going through in the upper bracket, Alta and Caro going to the playoffs in lower bracket, and we'll be seeing Jabatus and Terra going down into the lower bracket. But on to playoffs. Here we go. Alta and Terra. It's going to be no challenge for Terra onto Alta. It's just a team diff at that point. Jabatus and Caro. I think Caro, it's a good roster, but I feel like the roster relies on one player too much, and it's not going to be enough for playoffs. Jabatus, 3-1 victory for them. Moving on to a Game 5 victory onto Propel. Jabatus, a little bit of momentum will shift them forward for there, but as you can see, it won't be enough. But Palmas and Terra in a Game 5, it's going to be a good series. But I think with Palmas, after losing to Newborn, let's be honest, your momentum's not going to be that good. And I just realized I screwed the order of the game, so I'll go to my upper bracket. Serene Taisha, Propel, 3-1 victory for Serene. I don't think it's going to be a huge close game, to be honest. Serene are pretty strong, but I don't put them as strong as everyone else is seeing them. Newborn and Palmas. Newborn, come on, guys. Open your eyes. They're dominant team. They're winning it all. They're just too good. They're going to go on and beat Serene like it's nothing. I've just given the Serene just for respect that they finished high and finished first. But going off into that lower bracket, Palmas to Jabatus. Palmas hoping that they bounce back from getting swept. I think they'll gain that momentum, but it won't be enough against Serene. Because Serene, I do have to give that little bit of respect. They did come first in their conference, so they will go to that grand final. But I've only given Serene 2 games here, just off momentum. Newborn, to be honest, as long as they don't turn up and flop it, I think this is just a trophy for them. We saw this exact team do it last season. They looked really good in league play, but they got double first rounded, I believe, in playoffs, upper and lowers. But I think with this new Newborn roster, ever since they added in Specky alongside with Gav and MM Overdrive, it's just a very solid roster. If they turn up and perform on the day, they will not get beat.
Alright, so we have a Newborn lover here in the booth. But you do think Serene Taisha is going to make it, and Ark sadly couldn't join. But we do have his prediction. So who wants to take the honors of doing the play-ins, what he predicts? Kingsman, Buddha, me?
I don't mind. I'll take the play-ins and we can have you two fight it off for the playoffs. Right, Ark. Arc backs is the same as me. He reckons Terra will have the edge over Propel, but he has it in Game 5, and he reckons Palmas beat out Jabatus 3-2 in the upper bracket. He has Alta beating Anubis 3-1, or whoever goes there, because we know Anubis will not be playing. Obscurity beat Alta 3-1, and they go through. Fearless Echo just get the edge over Tartarus, and then Caro beat whoever goes there. So a lot of faith in the 4th place teams for Buddha. No, not Buddha, Arc. There we go.
So close. But I'll just do the first part. You can talk about the final since your favorite team is going to be in there.
Alright.
Taking a look at his upper bracket, he thinks Serene Taisho is going to beat Terra. I completely agree with that one. Newborn over Palmist, sure, we can see that happen. Then lower bracket, Obscurity versus Propel. Obscurity taking it through to Propel, definitely a good one to predict, but I think Arc thinks Obscurity is going to be the team there to make it through, and then afterwards losing to Palmis though. And then the round below that you have Jabatus, who's going to win against Caro, and then Terra, who dropped down from uppers, is going to win from Jabatus. And then Buddha, you can take the rest.
Kind of lost track where you got up to, but you know what?
Upper final.
Alright, Serene Taisho and Newborn. Ark's got Game 5 here, just edging out for Serene Taisho. He knows that they're two top dogs battling, but he has given the edge to the Glaciers Conference. He's going to put Serene into that grand final from the upper bracket, putting Newborn down into that lower final. Did you do Palmas and Terra? I can't remember. No. Well, Palmas and Terra, there you go. Game 5. Palmas and Terra, I mean, yeah, that's going to be a great matchup. I think you could really go either way. So you got to respect the decision that's made. He has put Palmas in that Game 5 victory. But then for Newborn, he's put them to beat Palmas in a 3-1 fashion. Obviously, Palmas coming off a victory. He just doesn't think it's enough. He thinks Newborn are just stronger. But a grand final, Arch does not believe in a Newborn bracket reset. He thinks Serene Taisho are the dominant side here for the Prospect tier. He's put Serene Taisho in that 4-2 victory for the grand finalists for Prospect.
Yeah, and one thing he does believe in is that Terra is gonna make top 4 here in Prospect. Same as Kingsman, I think you ended up having them in the top 3 at the end. So, two here having a lot of faith. And now, Kingsman, talking about you, we're going straight into Challenger. Giving it to you.
We are Oracles. They've been on a superb run end of the season. I think they'll be too strong for Orcus and Pardus. Pardus, they were near the top and they've fallen off ever since they dropped Shiny and Liquid. But Orcus, I just think they've, with the roster inconsistencies all season, I think Oracles will go past them. Kadeho, Gelbvi, I just think they might put up a bit of a fight against Kadeho, who've been struggling end of the season. I think Kadeho just take the edge. I think whoever goes through, Neptunium will sweep with ease. And you can't get 49 wins and get first rounded in the play-ins. That would be ridiculous. But moving on to upper bracket, Elves Mischief. This was literally a flip of the coin. I literally was sat with one of my challenger players in VC, and I flipped a coin, Elves or Mischief, and it landed for Elves. And you know what? I'm gonna back them. Everyone said that they've underestimated Astrons all season because they've had 2 prospects moved up. But I think that will work in their favour. I think Eclipse will shock everyone and beat Apprentices 3-1. Eclipse, a very underrated side, and I think they'll just have the edge. Right, and just enough time for me to take a drink so I can run through the final running order. This order, I've beaten Elves 3-1. This order, I think, have been phenomenal all season long, and I don't see anything but Disorder beating Elves. I'd say it could even be a sweep, but I think Elves are good enough to get a game at least. Feather, I have getting a 3-0 sweep onto Eclipse. Stingrays, we've been playing in Rival for half of the season, and Suzuki, I don't think, should even be in the Challenger. So I think they'll get an easy sweep there. But moving on to lower bracket, I think Oracles take Mischief in 5. We've seen bigger upsets before, but it's a very big game for them. I think Oracles will just edge it out. They've been beating top teams in the run-in. I think they'll do it again. Apprentices, I think, will get a sweep onto Neptunium. It's been very close between them all season long. And, well, it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Elves, I see beating Apprentices 3-1. We saw this fixture in the Cup where Elves were able to get 3-1. I think with our addition of Kyron towards the end of the season, I think we'll be able to push on a 3-1 there. I see Oracles again pushing through again, making that massive run through the play-ins, but I think it will be ended by Elves as a 3-1. Elves, I reckon, just keep on pushing. I think Disorder Feather, it's a game 5 again. I'm gonna back Stingray here for a 3-2 win onto Disorder, and then I have Disorder getting beaten in game 5. I put this a lot down to momentum. Momentum in this playoffs is massive with fatigue. Players will be playing to 3 to 4 hours, even 5, throughout this day. And I think Disorder getting beaten in game 5, getting beaten in game 5 in upper final does some things to those strong teams. And I think that Elves will have the momentum, obviously winning their previous 2 series, and I think they'll have that hunger to beat Disorder, who sent them to the lower bracket. But I think then in the finals, Feather, they've been too strong for Elves all season long, I'll say it. And I think Elves get a game, but by the time they realise it, Feather have already walked away with the grand finals.
Alright, Kingsman, beautiful bracket, and you have a lot of faith, in your own team there, and don't blame you. Now, going to my bracket, some results, I gotta be honest, I think could be different, purely based on momentum, like you said, in your bracket. But taking a look at lower bracket, I think Kadeho will be too strong, sweeping Gelby, and then continuing to face off against Neptunium, but Neptunium will be too strong for Kadeho, so Neptunium taking a 3-1 victory there. Oracles against Orcus, I think Oracles is just gonna be too strong there. And then afterwards they'll face off against Pardus, which they'll always also be too strong. And then they'll go twice in a row, 3-1, making it through to the lower brackets. And then in the upper bracket, Apprentices against Eclipse. It's gonna be a close one, but I do think Eclipse will edge it out in the end. And Elves against Mischief. Kind of agree with you there. It could be a coin toss who's going to make it, but I think in the end Elves will have the edge over Mischief and then make it through to the upper bracket with Mischief and Apprentices moving down into the lower bracket facing off against Oracles and Neptunium. And then in my prediction, starting at the upper bracket actually, Disorder taking on Elves. I think Disorder's going to be too strong there. Taking it in 5, since Elf does have that momentum of coming off that game 5 as well, so you carry a lot of momentum with you. Might take it to Disorder in the start, but they will bounce back. Taking a 3-2 victory, and then Feather against Eclipse. I do think Feather is the stronger team overall. And then taking it in 4 against Eclipse. Lower bracket will be Mischief taking on Oracles. I think it's all 4 going to be very close, but Mischief will take that one. Neptunium Apprentices, game 5 scenario, Neptunium will edge it out. And then Neptunium facing off against Elves. I think Elves will want to bounce back from losing in that game 5, so they'll have a little bit of a momentum issue facing in the beginning against Neptunium, but they will recover. Taking it in 5, Eclipse against Mischief, same thing there actually. Also taking it in 5, and then Eclipse against Elves. I think Eclipse will be the stronger roster out of the 2, making it through in the game 5 scenario. This sort of Feather, at this point I think everything is just going the full distance, going to be close. Feather Disorder, I think in the end Feather will be a little bit too strong, making it through, going straight into the grand finals. Disorder moves down, will take it from Eclipse, and I do see Disorder winning this. I'm going a bracket reset. Disorder coming from a lot of momentum. Will take it in 6 against Feather. Feather will kind of bounce back in the meantime, and then we'll see a game 7 scenario in the bracket reset. But Disorder will take this one.
Does not believe in Feather. Interesting. That'd be nice to see how that one goes on the playoffs area. But we'll move on to my prediction. Start off with the play-ins, of course. I've got Oracles at a game 5 onto Orcus. The reason I put this game 5 is, well, Orcus have Toby, and Toby is a great defender. He's going to be the player that keeps this series close. And depending on his teammates, they will take that series. But I think his defensive prowess will keep them into a game 5, but Oracles will take that. victory out just because it's just a great team. I mean, they got Maui. Maui's a great player. CJ and Eldruvo as well. They're going to beat Pardus in a 3-1 victory. I would not be surprised if I see Pardus take this or give a good result. But they've got some talented players on there. If J-Wobbs is playing, because I know he is a main roster-worthy player, then I probably would have changed his prediction. But I played it safe. I don't know. So I just put it on for Oracles to go through to the playoffs there. But Kadaho and Gelvi, I mean, with this playing run, I think it's just obvious. The gap was so big in the conference that these teams would just have a big team diff. Kadaho with a sweep, Neptunium sweep Kadaho. I mean, Neptunium, they came into play-ins with 49 wins. What? That's more wins than first in Elite Glacies. So Neptunium, they should breeze through that, but we could potentially see a massive upset if a team just feels like peaking on the day. But going up into my first round of playoffs, I put Mischief for the Game 5 onto Elves. Again, with Game 5s, when you predict Game 5s, you're not saying that one team is going to lose. It can pretty much go either way. That's the point of a Game 5, and that's what I've done with both of these series here. I think both of the matchups are very closely matched up with each other, and I think either team could take it. But I have just edged out to Mischief and Apprentices to go through into the upper bracket, and then Oracles and Neptunium going into playoffs through that lower bracket. Going on to my playoffs, starting up in the upper round, we will have Disorder and Mischief. It's a Game 5 written all over it, unless it's very close games and we may potentially see a 3-1, maybe a 3-0. But, I mean, they've had a good season all along against each other, so it's a Game 5 in the books for me. Feather and Apprentices. I've given Apprentices one game just because I respect the roster. It's got some talented players, but Feather, I just think they're too strong, hence why I put the 3-1 victory. Going for the first round of the lower bracket, of playoffs. Elves had a 3-1 victory. I just think the roster is stronger. I think they'll shut down Oracles and they'll take that 3-1 victory. Neptunium, people might disagree with the 3-0 sweep there, but I've gone for it. I think Neptunium will come on the day. They'll just show up at Eclipse. I think the games will be close, but the series score, it will be 3-0. They're going up into the upper final. I put Feather in a 3-1 victory onto Disorder. With this one, I kind of decided this off recent of their matchups against each other. I was going to put a Game 5, but because of their results, I did put Feather in a 3-1 victory. Then Elves and Apprentices, I've just put Apprentices to take that in a 3-1. Then a Neptunium in a 3-1 onto Mischief as well. Mischief, they'll give a good series, but Neptunium, I think they'll just be very strong and too good for their first few games of play-ins and playoffs. Then in that lower semi-final, Apprentices will be the team to take them down. In a Game 5, the momentum just won't be enough for them. I think Apprentices will take that one out and then win a Game 5 again in the lower final onto Disorder. As I said earlier, Game 5s, they could go any way. I could be completely wrong. But it'd be good games to watch here in the lower bracket and Challenger. But my grand final is Feather and Apprentices. For my most part, I've given 2 games just because of the momentum from Apprentices. We could potentially see that reset, but Feather, I mean, Sasuke, this is probably his best chance to get a trophy. He's definitely not going to be Challenger again. I think he potentially could go low Elite, I believe. So this is really his best season to do it. He's got a very good roster. I'm sure they're going to be grinding and working really hard for it. So I believe Feather will take it in a 4-2.
Alright, so another one who believes in Feather. Now, let's move on to Arcs Bracket. I will take it this time to kind of prevent all the, miscommunication that we just had. So, quickly running through it. Lower bracket, let's start. He thinks as well a sweep for Kateho. And then afterwards, Neptunium will win and move on. Oracles will win against Orcus, and Oracles will also win against Pardus, so Oracles will make it through via the lower bracket. Arc thinks it's not going to be a Game 5 scenario anywhere here in the first half of play-ins. Mischief will take it 3-1 over Elves, and Apprentice will take it 3-1 over Eclipse, so definitely some more dominant results. So Mischief, Apprentice making it through via the upper bracket. And then Elves, Oracles, Neptunium, Eclipse making it through via lower bracket. So upper bracket, Disorder will go 3-1 over Mischief. Still not a Game 5 scenario. And then Feather will go 3-2, the first Game 5 that he predicts, over Apprentices. So he kind of thinks it could also go the other way around. Then lower bracket, Elves taking it in Game 5 against Oracles, Neptunium taking a 3-1 victory over Eclipse. And Neptunium definitely continuing the run in a Game 5 against Mischief. And Apprentice, they drop down from the upper bracket, but they will sweep Elves immediately afterwards. And then Apprentice will face off against Neptunium in a Game 5, where Apprentice will take it in the end. And then in the upper final, you will have Disorder and Feather facing off. Feather taking it a 3-1 victory. Arc also thinking that Feather is definitely the strongest team here in Challenger. And then lower final, you have Apprentice losing in Game 5 to get against Disorder. And then Arc thinks we're going to have a full bracket reset. All 14 games will be played. Disorder will win the first best of 7, but then afterwards it's still going to be close, but Feather will bounce back and will be your Challenger champion. So Arc also thinks Feather is going to win it, but he does believe in the bracket reset. Kingsman Buddha, what do you think of his bracket?
Yeah, not bad. Obviously, I think a lot of people will predict Feather and Disorder in the final, regardless of who you want to win. But I think the main bit is in that lower bracket run on that, I believe it's Sunday, Championship Sunday. Yeah, because playoffs is for Prospectors on Saturday. So on that Sunday, I think that lower bracket is where everything can change. I think upper bracket, everyone pretty much predicts it be a Feather, Disorder upper final and grand finals. But it just depends how that lower bracket runs out.
Yeah, I mean, that lower bracket in Challenger, it has some very potential teams who can make a run. But obviously, they've got no extra lives, so some of them will get knocked out eventually. But there's definitely a few teams that you could question, they'll make a run. They'll make a run. That team will make a run. There's so many options. I think we should see a lot of Game 5s in that lower bracket.
Yeah, I agree with you both. A lot of teams definitely have the upset potential, because a lot of those players on all those rosters have just, if they peak on that day, then they're going to be unstoppable, and then you might see a lot of best of 5 scenarios, or maybe some sweeps here and there. You never know, because play-ins playoffs is always just a coin toss on what player is going to step up, what player will not. But that is the end here for RSCast of the playoff edition. Kingsman, Buddha, any final thoughts?
Well, obviously, this week is it for Prospect and Challenger. When we review what happened last week, we won't be needing to talk about Prospect and Challenger again. So go give it your all for playoffs and play-ins. And well, next week we'll be doing Rival and Elite predictions. So we've got a week to see the madness that goes on in the playoffs. And honestly, I want to see a few miracle runs. So I want to see some teams in the play-ins make it all the way to lower finals. I want to see some runs. So come on, let's make something entertaining. Come on.
Wow.
I agree. You got to see it happen. It's always great to see it happen. We've seen some things similar happen before. I mean, Kings was done it himself. He made a good lower bracket run all the way to the lower final. We've seen other teams do it. I think we saw a master team and a low seed go all the way, but just knocked down lower final. It's possible if you turn up on the day, you've got that team kind of morale together and you're just playing on your game. Anything can happen. But obviously, it's always a pleasure. Obviously, we've seen all the teams that are in play-ins, playoffs. It's great to see. Obviously, if you want to know dates and times, you can go find the playoff bracket in the server. I believe there might be a command for it. I'm not too sure. But just ask about it. You should be able to find it if you know the dates and times. But also a reminder as well, ERS signups have just opened. So if you want to, compete in another league, find somewhere else to play as well. They did just open up. You can find that in the RSC Discord server. There'll be an ERS channel if you want to go join up that server as well. These signups are now open. But other than that, just thank you all for coming, and I look forward to see all the teams compete for play-ins and playoffs.
Yeah, and you two there said it perfectly. Anything can happen, and the Prospects and Challenger are already up this week, so just see how that one's going to play out. Obviously, next week we're back with Rival and Elite. But before we go off, obviously we have a lot of sponsors to make sure that we can run RSC here. Obviously, massive thanks to Gamers Beat Cancer and Pathera Esports for helping with all the tournaments that we can run. Gamers Apparel giving us all the beautiful merch. Badass helping out with the graphics and obviously helping out behind the scenes as well. Brick and Brack, Synthesize Designs helping out huge. And obviously, shout out to the biggest sponsor that we have, Rule 1. They had just a pretty solid miracle run in the Boston Major, who are now mentally prepping for Worlds. So definitely a team to follow as well. Make sure to follow us on our socials at RSC_EU everywhere. that's the full entire mouthful. That is it here for RSCast. Play-ins, playoffs happening this week already. We'll be back next week with another RSCast, but do enjoy all the streams this week as we're gonna give you all the action of Prospect and Challenger.
I'm the storm that meets the moon. I'm the sun that will not move. Do you think you are? Who do you think you are?
Do you think you could be my little runaway? I say we just leave and get away. Forget the whole world and run away. We'll make our own rules and run away. Run away, run away. I just really wanna get to know ya. Know you tired of all of the old ones. If you wanna lean on my shoulder, I could hold you until we're older. Just one look, I'm going crazy. Never knew this could be so amazing. Is it stupid to ask you to date me if it's the end of the world? Do you think you could be my little runaway? I say we just leave and get away. Forget the whole world and run away. We'll make our own rules and run away. Run away, run away. Do you think you could be my little runaway? I say we just leave and get away. Forget the whole world and run away. We'll make our own rules and run away. Run away, run away. Could you be, could you be, could you be, could you be? Be my little runaway. Yeah, yeah. Be my little runaway. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I'm on a mission to find myself. Lately I'm off it, coughing. These meds I take gon' put me in a coffin. More often than not, I'm distraught, all alone in my room with the lights out. Even when it's nice out, I'm lazy. Really wish you see me on the daily. Lately I've been feeling crazy, baby. I don't wanna talk. I can tell she faking. She only hit me at 1 o'clock. My brain she's stained like sidewalk chalk. Everywhere I look, always see her chemicals. Think she got me hooked. I feel it in my genitals. Read me like a book and play me like a cassette tape. Why wait when you and me? Pigs fly great by day. Better get here by the by day. Irate the way that I be feeling. I've been irate. Why wait? Lately I've been feeling crazy. I'm not that much to see, so why everybody tryna look at me? Oh, it's getting hard to breathe, so I'ma take a minute and focus on me.
This is a solo, wish it was a duo. Lingo, bingo, way that I be falling down, plinko. I just put a sock on my mic, that's a spit fill. When I'm still up in the night, that's when I spit real.
Walking around my town and I can't help but look. I see you all around, every time it got me shook. When you walk by, I was too high, couldn't say hi. Now you moving to the next guy, I'm on the next high. Everywhere I look, all I see are chemicals. Think she got me hooked, I feel it in my genitals. Read me like a book and play me like a cassette tape. Why wait when you and me? Pigs fly great by day.